Learning the Sikha on Purim in Chelek Chaf Aleph on page 206. Shir today is being learned Lili Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rabbi Menashe Koltman. Es wird erzählt im Medrash. The Medrash relates regarding the story of Purim as nachdem, wie seine Nachtem geworden, Hamans Igris mit der Gzeira of Yidden, wie nicht nur beyad Haman. After the decree against the Yidden that was signed and was given over to the hands of Haman, then Haman mit kol bnei chaberasei gegangen zufriedene heit. So Haman with his entire entourage were going very happy and confident with themselves, und haben begegnet Mordechai, and they found Mordechai. Mordechai hat damals gesehen, shloishe tinoikes shoyubam in beis hasefer. Mordechai noticed then that there were 3 children that were coming from Cheder, from the school. So Mordechai ran after the children. Und Haman mit seinen Chabure sind ihm nachgegangen, bechtet zu hören, was Mordechai wird sie fragen. And Haman and his entourage followed Mordechai to see what it is that Mordechai is going to ask of them. When Mordechai came to the children, he asked one of the children, tell me a pasuk. Amalei, so the child said to him, Altira mipachat pisay. The pasuk they learned was, do not be afraid from a sudden fear or a sudden terror. Umishoyas rishayim, and from destruction that comes from the wicked, kisave that may come. That was what the first child said. Then pasach hasheni, a second child said, Va'omar ani karisi ayayim. I learned today, ubezeh pasuk amaditi mi beis hasefer. And it's this pasuk that we stopped at when we were in Cheder, in school learning. Utzu eitzav is sufar. They make all kinds of plans, and the Eibishter destroys them. Dabru davar, they speak words, v'lo yakum, and it will not stand. Ki imanu keil, because Hashem is with us. Pasach hashlishi v'amad, the third child opened and said, the pasuk that he learned that day, v'adzikna ani hu, and even in your old age, the Eibishter says, I'm with you. V'adseva ani espel, and when you're in your very old age, Hashem says, I will care for you. Ani asisi, I created you. Vani esa, I will carry you. Vani esbel val malet, and I will care for you and I will save you. Those were the 3 psukim that the children said and told Mordechai. They learned that day in yeshiva, in the school. When Mordechai had geheard their emphasis, when Mordechai hears their answer from the psukim, sochak, he smiled and he was happy. Vayasamech simcha gedela, he was extremely happy. Haman says to Mordechai, what is this tremendous joy that you're expressing with these children? So Mordechai answers, for the good news that they told me, that I should not be afraid of the bad plans that you have devised upon us. Immediately, Haman Rasha was very angry. And he said, the ones that I'm going to go to first and send my hand to first will be these children. This is the Medrash. Now the time of Pashtus, was Mordechai hat sich gefreut, hören die Psyche von den Kindern. What's the simple reason why Mordechai was so excited and happy when he heard the psukim that the children said? Is weil hat in dem gesehen an Nevuah, because he saw in this a level of prophecy. As hat nicht was zu meiden haben von Gzeres Haman. He doesn't have anything to be afraid of the decrees of Haman. Und wenn wir gefunden bekamen, bekämen beschast dem Inyan from Cycli Psukecha, we find this concept brought in Gemara in a few different places where you ask a child or someone to say over a pasuk. As the pasuk was a Yenuka had gesagt, that the pasuk that a child repeats is a ke'en nevuah v'chayetze b'zeh milmayla. It's some sort of a level of prophecy, some kind of revelation from above of what's going to be in the future when a child says a certain pasuk. So this was Mordechai's happiness and excitement when he heard these psukim of the children. However, this is not enough to explain what Mordechai's excitement was when he heard the psukim from the children. Warum? Because if this is the main point here in the story, was is the Beinegeh to the Tzel and the Pratim? So then all the other details in the story, how are they relevant for this? As that where did he find them? They were coming out. They were coming out from their school. And as that there were 3 children here. Was haben gesagt 3 psukim that repeated 3 different psukim. Why all these details necessary and relevant for the Simcha Gedaila of Mordechai? As andere Protea Sipor, even though other details here in the story, Vidas as hat angetroffen die Tinaikis, the fact that he just encountered them, nicht gegangen sie suchen. He didn't go and look for them, but he just bumped into them when they were coming out of school. Und das, as mehr wie ein Tinnik haben gesagt, Psukim mit der technische Psure Teuvechula. And also the fact that it was more than just one child that repeated a pasuk that had a content of good news about the future. Seinen mehr madgish deirav und nevuah. So this highlights and emphasizes even more the fact that we have here a message of a prophecy. However, this detail that it says here in the Medrash, that where did he find them as they were coming out of school, that's seemingly a detail which is not relevant. And the fact that it says specifically 3 and not more than 3 or whatever it was, specifically what's the relevance of the fact that there were 3 children here? Everything in Teire is precise. Das heißt, as euch the Seide und die Prote alle Scheines in dem Sippo sind meduik und geht zum Minyan. So also the order of all the details that is brought here and in the story is also all relevant for the message that was brought from these children in these psukim and the excitement, the Simcha Gedaila of Mordechai. Darf verstehen. So the question here is as follows. Aleph, the Seide, wie die Teneikes haben gesagt, die 3 psukim, the order and how these children repeated the psukim, first Altira, then Utsu Eitza, and then Vad Zikna, is nit kifisidran wie sie stehen in Nach. It's not on the order as they appear in Nach. The psukim Utsu Eitza and Vad Zikna stehen in Sefer Yeshaya. These 2 psukim are in Sefer Yeshaya, was is Beseda Asfarim Far Mishlei, which comes before Mishlei, where steht the pasuk Altira. There it says the pasuk of Altira that was actually mentioned first. Now, by Pashtus, we would simply assume, as they say that Alimut from the Tinaikis B'Vesa Sefer, that the order of learning of the children in school was, if you say that Asfarim, according to the order, the way it's in the Sfarim, first Teire, then Nevi'im, and then Ksuvim. So over here, though, the first child that Mordechai asks, what did he learn today? First, he mentions a pasuk in Mishlei, and then the other children from the psukim in Yeshaya. Uns is echt nit wie in Seide min am Ochal Amuktam. And over here, it's also not in order from the later pasuk going back to the earlier pasuk. If for whatever reason they would be going from the later pasuk. Because then the later pasuk of Vad Zikna, which is further in Yeshaya, that should have been the first pasuk mentioned. So what is the order of the 3 psukim here that these children are telling Mordechai? Another diak here in the story is wegen ersten Tinnik wird erzählt im Medrash, als hat gleich onkenakdame gesagt dem pasuk, that the child immediately, without any introduction, said the pasuk that he learned that day. Hashenkim beim zweiten Tinnik steht, but regarding the second child, it says, Pasach Hasheni v'Omar, the second child says, Ani karisi ayoim, I learned today, ubezeh pasuk amadeti mi beis hasefer, and it's at this pasuk that we stopped right before we left from school. As hat jenen Tag gelernt andere psukim, that he learned more that day. Now, we have them pasuk is geblieben stehen. This is where they stopped. Isn't it move on? So the question here is: does that mean that the first child that doesn't give this introduction, so he only learned 1 pasuk that day in yeshiva, just the pasuk of Altira? Gimel, the third diak here in the story, if, as we said before, as the commentaries say about the story here, that Mordechai accepted this as a message and as a prophecy, why does he use the expression that he's excited and happy for the good news that he heard here? Why doesn't he use a term that there was a good prophecy here or something similar? So there's something here about the fact that this is dafke a besura taiva that he hears and what the children are saying. Additionally, there's another thing that we have to clarify here regarding this story. As it's related in the Medrash, is this man ha'ma'ora anal gewen, when did this happen? Bald nachdem wir seine gechasmet geworden, die Igris Gzeira. Immediately after the Gzeira, the decrees with the signatures that were given for this decree, for the letters, happened. Und Shoim Demelt is by Mordechai given a simcha gedayle from the Besura Teiva. And right then, and when he encountered, he met these children and he heard from them this prophecy, he already was extremely joyous for this good news. As is netavas moidet zaven for Haman's Eitzera. There's nothing to be afraid of Haman's bad plans. If so, the question is, for was is nach dem gewähnt der ganze Sturm von Vayilbash, Sak ve'efe goyme, Vayizak, Zaka gedoylo mara. After this, we see that Mordechai kicks up a big storm amongst the Yidden. He puts on a sackcloth and he screams and cries out to Hashem bitterly. Und der Rabbi praten, was Mordechai hat getan und angesagt Esther in Satan, and also all the other things and many details that Mordechai tells Esther to do, wie erzählt in the Megillah, as the Megillah tells us in the story. Why after Mordechai had a clear, open message and prophecy from these children, does everything after that, is it all necessary? From them, alam is mashma, so from this all, it seems to be clear. As Mordechai hat den Pseukliebste Kecher von den Tinaikis nicht angenommen als eine Nevuah mamish. He didn't accept the words that the children said here through these psukim as an absolute prophecy. It's schwer zu verstehen, so if so, what we need to understand here is, on the other hand, favos, sochak, v'hoya sameach, simcha gedela. If he didn't accept it as an open prophecy here, so then why was he so happy with such a great joy by hearing the psukim that the children learned? What message did he hear here, if not prophecy, that he was so excited? So the point to explain this story is, let's first introduce and understand better what it is that brought to this entire decree against Yidden. As the Gzeire is given, lahashmid, larig, la'abed, eskola Yehudim minar vatzok in tafen noshim. To God forbid, wipe out and to kill all of the Jews from young to old, children, women. U'benegeya, the sibah of the Gzeire is as, so when it comes to explaining the cause for such a decree to happen, so we have Aleph, wie erzählt in the Megillah, as the story in Megillah unfolds, Beis, Alpi, Medrash Chazal, and then what it says in Medrash about what was the real cause behind this. In the Megillah wird erzählt, in the Psukim of the Megillah tells us, as das hat sich angegeben von dem, was kol avdei HaMelech goyme, kairim u'mishtachvim laHaman goyme. All the servants of the king bow down to Haman. Mordechai lo yichra v'lo yishtachve. Mordechai refused to bow down to Haman, and then vayamali Haman chema, Haman became very mad. Vayivas be'ein of the shleich yad b'Mordechai levadai ki gidlo is am Mordechai, and he didn't want to just kill Mordechai himself because he realized that Mordechai is just a representative of the nation that he belongs to. Vayivakish Haman lahashmid es kol Yehudim goyme am Mordechai, and Haman desired to, God forbid, wipe out all of the Jews, the nation that Mordechai belongs to. Das heißt, so what this means is, as b'shas Haman hat choyke v'doirish given, for was Mordechai booked sich nicht zu him, when Haman interrogated this matter. And what happened here? Why isn't Mordechai bowing down to him? Und hat gefunden, as das ist nicht so lieb Mordechai's Eigenschaften als a Prate. This is not based on Mordechai and what he has, who he is as an individual. Zayndik von der Rosh Sanhedrin, und der Manik bei Yidden v'chulu, the stature, the level, the prominence that he was in the Sanhedrin, and a leader of the Yidden. Mordechai. Ashahu Yehudi. Rather, the fact that he belongs to the nation of Yidden, that he's a Yehudi. As das ist der Fall, was Zayndik a Yid, glaubt nor in the Meibischen, being a Yid, he believes only in Hashem, and his Kaifer b'chol avodah zarah, he denies any other avodah zarah. Jede Sach, was halt sich for a Metzias, or anything that considers itself to be an entity for itself, that's the reason why he's not bowing down to Haman. This is what filled Haman with anger. Und wie bald, as das was Mordechai, lo yichre v'lo yishtachve, is the far val hu Yehudi, so being that the fact that he didn't bow down was because he's a Yid, is vayizev be'einav v'shloech yad b'Mordechai levadai, he didn't want to just chas v'shalom kill Mordechai himself. Wie bald, as the sibbe, was Mordechai bukt sich nit, is the nukudas ha-yahadus, welch is faran by alle Yidden, minar badzok in tafenoshim. The reason Mordechai doesn't bow down to him is because of that pintel Yid, the point, the deep point of the connection to Hashem that every single Yid possesses in his heart. Young and old, child, women, everyone. Nehmt es doch, as nit no Mordechai. So that means that not only Mordechai, no the ganze Am Mordechai, anerkennt nit sein Metzias. They don't recognize that he is an important an entity. Und am Pshite, nit zu bucken sich zu him. Most definitely not to bow down to him. Hat gesucht a weg, la hashmir des kol Yehudim. So that's why Haman was looking for a way how to get rid of the Yidden that have the Nekudas HaYahadus, the Pintel Yid that's standing in his way to present himself to people as a idol that people worship and bow to him. That's a simple story in the Megillah. Now, the Rabbi continues, what does it say in Chazal about the background of how the Eibishter allows such a decree to come upon Yidden? Wie kommt es aber, als Haman hat gekannt bringen, Gzeira of Yidden? How is it possible that Haman had the power to bring such a decree upon Yidden? Zena Chazal Mevayer. So Chazal explain as the Sibbe Ruchnis is given mit Nishishtachfule Tzelem. Because there was a time period before when Yidden had bowed down to a Tzelem, to an Avodah Zarah. About as by Yidden is given azah po'ula and tnuah. Since by the Yidden there was such an action, a movement physically, afil of blois lupanim, b'loy lev alev klal, even if it was just externally, not, God forbid, in their heart that they believed in this. Was es hepech von der nekudas hayahadis, which expressed something the opposite of what that pintel Yid inside of them is. Und rührt an dem etzem verbundseide mit Neubischen, and therefore it touches, it affects the very connection that the essence of the Yid has in it, connected to Hashem. Hat es b'meile gebracht, ich sehe es kloyer Rachmana litzlan. So automatically the result was this brought a decree to completely annihilate Yidden, God forbid. Weil die ganze Metzies und Kiyum von Yidden ist sehr verbunden mit dem Neubischen. The entire existence of Yidden in this world is only possible because of their very deep connection that they have to Hashem. So as soon as Yidden acted in a way that rejected that Nekudas HaYahados, even if it was just externally, so they became exposed to the elements of nature and to the powers of the nations in the world then, and Haman was able to bring such a decree upon Yidden. Und das gegeben Mordechai's Daige, so this was Mordechai's worry, bis as vayil bash sak ve'efe goyme, vayizak zoke gedelo mora. That Mordechai dresses in sackcloth and he screamed bitterly about this Gzeira here. Varam Mordechai yoda es kol hashanasa, when as it says in the Megillah, Mordechai knew everything that happened here. What did he really know? Had gewusst die Sibbe, was hat gebracht die Gzeira. He understood what was the cause that brought about this decree. Is given da gossoi, so therefore his worry was, Tamer is by Zayd, der Stachvel Etzelem given in an Indian von Avodah Zarah chas v'shalom. This that they bowed down to the Tzelem in the time before, maybe this was some level of an act of serving, bowing down to Avodah Zarah, God forbid. When I feel as der Stachvel is blois lepon, and even if this that they bowed is just externally, nor b'chitzayni is, weiß es doch aber, as in Nekudas, Hayahadis, Va'amunah is by Zaynid Begoli. But what that means is that Pintel Yid that believes in Hashem unconditionally is not fully expressed. And das wollt Bazei gewen Begoli, because if it was fully expressed, wollt es gepeilt, it would have an impact, Shlo Yuchlu Yigu Afilu Belavushav Shemachshave Dibur Maise Shalamunas Hashem Echad, that there would be nothing in even their external behavior, whether thought, speech, or action, that should be counter to their true belief that they have in the one Hashem. And therefore, what they would have expressed even externally and physically, limsay nafshay, to be ready to give their life, to die, not even to do an action physically against the oneness of Hashem, to bow down to Avodah Zarah, even when one doesn't believe it in this at all in his heart. That's what the Pintel Yid, the Neshama, demands of a Yid, even externally. So the fact that the Yidden didn't express this externally means that the revelation of who they really are, their real identity, the Nekudas HaYahadis, was not there. This is a quote here from Tanya in Perik Yotes. It's because the true desire of a Yid, to always be one with Hashem, is afraid, betiva, naturally, to touch anything that's even a drop of Avodah Zarah, God forbid, which is against our belief in the one Hashem, even with the external garments of the soul, whether in speech or even in action, even without any belief in this, in heart at all. After Mordechai was worried about this, and he knew the history behind the Gzeira, spiritually, what happened here. So Mordechai knew as the Weg zum Bittel Gzeira is durch Ma'ere sein bei Yidden, the Nekuda Sa'yadus, as Yisrael Reizkom Begilei. That the only way to nullify this decree is to bring out again that Pintel Yid, that the Yidden have their belief in Hashem, that it should be fully expressed in their life. As the Tchune von Am Mordechai, the characteristic of the nation of Mordechai, as lo yichra v'lo yishtachve, that they do not bow down to Avodah Zarah, zol durchnehmen alle levushei nefesh u'machshav v'dibur ha'maaseh, that this should permeate all of the garments of the soul in thought, speech, and action, bis zu mesiris nefesh al kiddush Hashem b'poel mamish, to the point of being ready to sacrifice one's life, to sanctify Hashem's name, physically, literally. This is the background and the story over here about the Gzeira, that this is all about, it's all revolving around the Nekudas Hayadus, the Pintel Yid that disturbed Haman, and Mordechai being concerned about the fact that from a time before, the Pintel Yid, we saw that it wasn't fully expressed properly, and therefore Mordechai understood that the only way to nullify the decree is by bringing it out fully. Now, and here we come back to the story with Mordechai and the children. Und B'shas Mordechai had gehört von den Tinoikes shoyuboim mibeis hasefer. So now, when Mordechai heard from the children that were coming out of school, die Psukim welche dricken ois die Emunah ubitochen in dem Eibischen. He heard from them that they learned Psukim, and they're telling him Psukim that express their belief and their trust in Hashem. Hat gewusst, so Mordechai knew, as Yidden wollen beistehen den Messiah, und wollen sein greater Messias Nefesh. Yidden will withstand here this test, and they will be ready to die for the Eibish's sake. And therefore, Sachak, Vayesameach, Simcha Gedoyle, this was his great joy here. Was is nicht da, was zum Meiraben, for dem Eitze, Hara, Shiatzta, Aleinu. There's nothing to be concerned about the bad plan that Haman devised against Yidden or Kidl Kaman, as will be explained soon in detail. That was what Mordechai heard here from the children, the power of Yidden, that the Pintel Yid is being expressed. And when he heard this good news, is the Noch, after this, Vayikra Mordechai's begodov, Vayilbash sak ve'efer, so he tears his clothing and puts on sack clothing, Vayetze b'soy cha'ir, Vayizak zaka g'doyla umara, and he screams bitterly, Ubechol medina goyme, Evel godla Yehudim, Ubitzoyim ubchi umisped, the Yidden were mourning and they were crying and doing tshuva. Today, what was this all done for? Zum Eure sein, and Areis bringen begilui, the Nekudas Hayahadus, und the greatkeit of Mesiris Nefesh B'Poel. This is in order to actually bring out and develop, to express, that the Yidden should express that Pintel Yid that they have in them, that readiness to be dedicated to Hashem and to fight, and not to Chas v'Sholem bow down to Haman or to anything that he demands. The actual Mesiris Nefesh. So Mordechai didn't hear a nevuah here. That's the point. He heard and saw what the children are learning in school, that their amunah and betachin is b'shleimus, is very strong. That was the good news, and that was the simcha that he heard, that the nekudas hayadus of Yidden is beginning to come out. And therefore Mordechai went and continued to even inspire Yidden further to express their nekudas hayadus by doing tshuva and so on. That's the explanation here of the story. Now we get here to the details of what the three children said, the three different psukim, and in the order the way they said it. The chiluk and teichen from the drei psukim. What is the difference of the content that is being said in these three psukim? The pasuk al tira mi pachat pisayim u'mishoyes hasham kisavai, where the pasuk says, don't be afraid of a sudden terror or of the destruction that may come from the Shaim. Ret wegen apachad u'natzara gluya speaks about something that is open and revealed, pachad, atzara, a fear, a terror that comes to Yidden. Umezakt of them al tira. And the pasuk here is saying, don't fear this. Onken asbara. And the pasuk doesn't give any explanation why not. That's the first pasuk. In the pasuk utzu eitzu v'sufa, the pasuk that says that they devise plans and the Eibishter destroys it. Dabru dava, they speak, v'lo yakum, and it will not come to be. So here in this pasuk it doesn't mention about any actual tzara that's coming, nor wegen an eitze und davar auf bringen a tzara. Rather it speaks about plans or words that may lead to a tzara. Nor as a bottle werden. And here in this pasuk it doesn't just simply say that this will be nullified. In this pasuk it gives an explanation. Ki imanu kel, because Hashem is with us and therefore Hashem takes care of us. In the dritten pasuk, then in the third pasuk, vat ziknani hu, vat sevani esboil, till your old age, Hashem says, I am here with you until your very old age. Hashem says, I'll carry you, I'll take care of you. Ani asisi, vani yesav, vani esbo, vamalit, I have created you, I will carry you, and I will take care of you, and I will save you. Retzich, überhaupt nicht wegen Tzara. In this pasuk, it doesn't speak at all about any kind of tzara at all. Nit begilui, nit ba'achana, not regarding an actual tzara coming, and not even about any plans that can lead to it. Nor wegen zikna and seva. Just speaks about old or very old age. These are natural changes in a person's life and creation. Was the Rabbi that Hashem created. And here the pasuk says, not simply that Hashem says, I am here with you, and I will take care of you, nor Hashem says, I make you and I will carry you. The pasuk here uses much stronger terms to describe and explain what it is that we can rely on Hashem regarding these elements of nature or facts of nature in a person's life. That's the observation here, if you take a look here, and the difference between the three psukim. In Toich and Anyan and Beruchni is not to understand the difference in the content of what these three psukim represent on a spiritual level. Weisen, die drei psukim, auf drei Tnuas und Madreges, these three psukim over here indicate three different levels in dem Eufen von Amunah und Bitachon in dem Eibischen, and to the degree of the belief and trust in Hashem. Was bringen heraus dem Mesiris Nefesh von Yidden for dem Eibischen, which expresses the Yidden's readiness for self-sacrifice for Hashem. So in the first pasuk, this is mentioned first, even though it's later on, it's only in Mishlei, but this pasuk is the first level. And what does it say here? Al tira mipachat pisayim umishayes tesham kisavi, not to be afraid of an actual tzara that's coming, and it doesn't give an explanation. Mitzad amunah betachan in the meibushin, the first step that's there in the essence of the heart of a yid, because of the belief and the trust that he has naturally to Hashem, is chachas al piteva, bafalt a menschen am meire by a plutzendigen ankum von a pachad and shayes tesham. Naturally, a person gets very startled and very afraid of a sudden danger, a sudden destruction that's coming about from the shayim. Is aber by a maimin, by a yidden, by a believer, by a yid which is a believer, nitadi meire. He has no fear at all. And a darf nitoben ken as bod of a tamt of them. He doesn't need any explanation for why not to be afraid. B'tivoy is ein gefeel, naturally, the Yid has the feeling, al derech maimer azal, like with the expression that it says in the Gemara, kol ma da'avad rachmana letav avid. Whatever Hashem does is only for the good. So if it's Hashem that's orchestrating all of this, I'm in the hands of Hashem. So he doesn't need any explanation of why not to be afraid, because there's no one that has control over a Yid. That's the natural, instinctive feeling of the Yid, the natural amunah and betachin in Hashem. This is the first step. This is the first level in the first pasuk. A starker Eufen von amunah, then an even stronger level of amunah, as utzu eitza v'sufar, that the plans, the Eibishter destroys their plans, and dabru dava v'lo yakum, and the words that they speak will not come to be. So over here, this is a stronger level of amunah, because nit blois hatanit kein meide. Here, not only is he not afraid, nor by him is bevados as tufar unlo yakum. Over here, he has the absolute certainty that whatever plans there are will actually be completely destroyed. Not only that he feels safe because whatever comes is letav, it's for the good, it's because it's coming from Hashem and no one has a control over a Yid, but furthermore, he knows that Hashem will actually take care and make it that it should be open and revealed good. Hashem will take care of him. On the Hasbara, on Tam Sichli, and here this is already where the person brings it down deeper. It's not just something that is instinctive from his neshama that he believes, but he's able to bring it into his metzias to understand and explain this. By him is bevados, because he has it explained in his mind, and it's certain by him ki imanu kel, that Hashem is with us. That's the second level. Then l'maylam is even furthermore, on a higher level of amunah and Hashem, is their upleg. It's when the person has it so clear in his mind as vat zikna anihu, vat seva ani espa, that in a person's age, an old, very old age, Hashem will carry him and take care of him. Which means oich di chukais v'inyanei ateva, all laws or matters of nature, was der Eibishter hat kevei gewen in the bria, that Hashem himself established in creation, haben of a Yidden kein Shlita, have absolutely no control over a Yid, and therefore he doesn't at all get excited or affected by what goes on in nature. And over here, because this is a deeper level of amunah, which relates to anything that goes on in a person's life from nature in the world, so here there's an additional explanation that the Yid feels how much Hashem is in control of him and everything. Not only that Hashem is with us, not as Aniyas Sisi, Hashem creates everything. Hashem carries and Hashem takes care of a person and saves him from all the elements of nature, whatever it may be. So those are the three levels of the Amunah that is expressed there in the three psukim that these children said. So therefore it's brought in this order, from the basic and most intrinsic and deep level of Amunah to then understanding it and having the certainty even with a hezber al piseichel, and even more so as it applies to anything that may happen to a person in the nature of the world. So these are the three levels, one higher than the other, in the education of these children coming from cheder, coming from school, that Mordechai heard. By dem ersten Kind, the first child, the fact that he's the first, this indicates that this is a child that's a beginner, in the beginning of his education. So here, This is one pasuk that he says, meaning, Mer von dem hat noch nicht gelernt. He's a beginner. This is the level that he's on. At this pasuk, what it says here in this pasuk, the basic emunah that every yid intrinsically has, doesn't need any explanations. Aber afile eide, is shaykh zu verstehen mit sein seichel, but even this beginner, this child, even before he has the capacity to understand and explain it logically and with certainty, darf be im sein bepashtus. Nevertheless, even by this child, it's obvious and it's simple, upgepaskend, it's very clear, as al tira mipachat pislaim and mishayis tashon kisavei, that there's nothing to be afraid of any destruction that comes from the shayim without any explanation. It's just natural to a yid to believe in Hashem. And the tinnik werd älter, not megalerent, and then the second child, when a child grows older and learned more, so here the Medrash says that the child introduces and says, Ani karisi ayayim, I learned in Chede today more. Ubezeh pasuk amadati. It's at this pasuk that we stopped. Eretchen alein gelernt. This child already read or learned more. Er is shaykh zu eigenem verstand. He's saying that I can already read and understand on my own. Lernt men him a tieferen opleg on a hechere darge in amunah bitochen. So with such a child, you learn a pasuk that expresses a deeper level of amunah and trust in Hashem, mit gewisskeit and with certainty that it's so certain by him that he could explain it even logically. Utzu eitza v'sufa, that Hashem destroys all the plans being devised, and davar v'lo yakim, and one of the words will stand. Oneich di asbara. And the explanation as well that Hashem is with us. This is already a deeper level of a child that's learning more and can understand. And then the third child that already matured even more in his understanding and the way he takes things. So by him you can learn and teach him and ingrain in him the understanding. As a yid werden spal a full from the agbalas v'chuki hateva, that a yid does not get at all affected by any limitations or laws of nature. Was the Rabbi shot by Bashafen that Hashem has created. With the ganze asbara was some pasuk, and with all the details that the pasuk says on Yasisi, V'nayasav, V'nayaspal, V'amalet, relating to age, old age, things that are just in nature. Those are the three psukim that Mordechai heard from the children that expressed their Yiddishkeit, their Nekudas HaYahados, and that's what was the excitement of Mordechai. Furthermore, the Rebbe says, what we see here, the Medrash says is, B'shas Mordechai et gehert die psukim from the kinder be'ei shoyuboim mi beis hasefer. When Mordechai hears the psukim that these children are telling him, and when were they telling it to him? When they came out, they were coming out of their school. Which means as follows: they are being educated in such a manner as nit nor zayendik in Beis HaSefer, the Vekman ze umelan ze amuna mesidus nefesh al tira, that it's not only while they're in school in that kind of environment of learning that over there they're being inspired with this belief and the self-sacrifice, not to be afraid. On azol bayim zayin abgelegt oich beseichel v'regesh, and furthermore by the children that are more mature to even have this. To be understood in their logic and with their feelings. But the point of here is that they take this along with them even after they come out of the school. Coming back home to their homes, and even here they bring this attitude and this certainty and this amunah with them. And therefore, this was the source of the great joy of Mordechai. From the psukim, from the Tinaikes hat gesehen, from the psukim that these children were saying, Mordechai saw as by Yidden is ganz the Nekudas HaYados, by alle Yidden, that the Pintel Yid is whole by all Yidden and by everybody. Ubemele as afila divos bazeh is noch nit begilui. Therefore, even by those that it has not yet been expressed, these children coming from school, even out of school, with this kind of message and certainty and amunah, will bring this into the homes of their parents and to all Yidden. That was the simcha of Mordechai. Das ist euch the diak haloshen from Mordechai. Now we understand the precise words that Mordechai actually says. As ein simcha is from the psuris tevisha besruni, that it's the good news that he heard here and what the children said. That I should not be afraid from the bad plans that Haman devised against the Yidden. Which means the diburim atzmam for the Tinaikis. The very fact that the children are saying these psukim and he sees what kind of education they are getting. And the Pintel that he hears coming out in the very psukim that they're saying right now. This itself is the good news. As bei Yidden is ganz, that by Yidden it's whole und wird sein ganz, and it will continue to be whole. Die Nekudis, Hayahadis, Mesiris Nefesh, was is Mevatl Gzeres Hamon, Shalei Afachet Chulu. The Pintel Yid that Yidden are ready for Mesiris Nefesh, and this is going to nullify Haman's decree, and therefore, Mordechai says, I will not be afraid. Das ist euch, was mir yad, kos, Haman, Rasha. This is what got to Haman, and this is why he was so angry. That he wanted to reach and touch these children before everyone else. In the Tinaikis, that the Gezend and Hemshech, it's in these children that he saw the continuation of Klal Yisrael. Und noch mehr die Sibbe, and they are actually the cause from them lo yichra v'lo yishtachva for him, why Yidden are not going to bow down to him. Or any other idols. So Haman identified what's the source of the strength of the Yidden, the Nekudis HaYahadis, which is being expressed in the education of the little children. And that's what Haman said he wants to attack first. That's the explanation of this story on a deeper level to understand what exactly was the great simcha of Mordechai in what he heard. Apianal kommt zu a Teistus Hasbare in the Maimer Azala Yidua of Kimu v'Kibla Yudim. This gives us an additional explanation on the understanding and what it says in the Gemara regarding the pasuk in the Megillah where it says that the Yidden fulfilled and they accepted. So what does it mean, this double expression here? Kimu mashakiblu kfar. So the Gemara darshans that the Yidden now fully fulfilled this that they accepted before at Matan Torah, and then by Matan Torah, when Yidden accepted the Torah, the acceptance wasn't full and complete. And now Yidden fulfilled and fully accepted even more than before. And what this means is, as Purim is in the Medah Rabbi Raisa, that in Purim, the big notification, so to speak, about this, that Yidden received the Torah by Matan Torah, and it was a result of Kaf Aleim Har Kegigis, that it was sort of by force, where the mountain was lifted up over their head. And now, here, in the time of the story of Achashverosh, Yidden accepted it again. And here in this case, Yidden willingly, and with Mesiris Nefesh, accepted the Torah again. And Chassidus is mevarid in pasuk. Similar, Chassidus explains also the pasuk that says, "V'kibela Yehudim es shaychelu lasis." The Yidden accepted this that they had begun to fulfill. As Matan Torah is given nor the eschala echelu lasis. Matan Torah, their acceptance of the Torah was only a beginning. Weil demolt is the Mesiris Nefesh from Yidden of Kabbalas HaTorah. Then, when Yidden accepted the Torah, das war Sekdimu Nasa L'Nishma, the fact that Yidden accepted when they said Nasa V'Nishma, Gekommen Mitzad L'Mayla. This was because of, from above, by force from above, Kofa Aleim Har Kegigis, because of the mountain that was placed over their head, or as Chassidus explains, this refers to the tremendous love that Hashem expressed to Yidden, that they couldn't refuse accepting the Torah. So this is as a result of a revelation from above. Aber b'mei Purim is given v'kibla Yehudim a Kabbalah Gemura. Now, when the Yidden accepted the Torah with a full acceptance, durch the Mesiris Nefesh from Kol Yisrael me'atzmam, through the Yidden on their own, expressing and bringing out their own self-sacrifice, the Reber is dann given the Gemara Shlemis Kabbalah Torah. This is the completion and the full acceptance of the Torah. So here we can see, based on the story that Mordechai had with the children, we can see how the story here and the acceptance of Yidden by Purim is the completion of the way the acceptance began at the time of Matan Torah. As geschehen wie in dem Zman von Echelulas, is Matan Torah, just like it was at the beginning, when Yidden began to accept and fulfill that Matan Torah. Is dafke b'schus der Avos von the Kinder. It's all in the merit and the guarantee that there is from the children. As it says in the Medrash, that it's the children that are the guarantors for Yidden, that the Torah will continue to the next generation. Hadan, the Rebbe gegeben die Torah zu Yidden, and therefore Hashem gives the Yidden the Torah at that time. Al derech zeh is given in dem Zman from v'kibla Yehudim b'mei Achashverosh. Similar also was this that Yidden accepted the Torah again in the times of Achashverosh. As the Kabbalah Gemura hat sich aufgetan mitzad der Arvos von den Kinder. The absolute acceptance that Yidden expressed in this time was also accomplished by the children, by the guarantee of the children. As mentioned in the story of the Medrash, the children that came out of the school. And generally, as the Medrash tells us, that there were the 22,000 children, that which Mordechai gathered, gelernt mit sie, and he learnt with them, eingepflanzt in sie Mesiris Nefesh, begolui, ubepoil, vichazal detzeln barucha. And he ingrained in them that it should have Mesiris Nefesh, should be revealed, and to be ready in actuality to give their life up for Hashem. This is the children that were the ones that are the guarantee and inspire the whole Klal Yisrael to accept the Torah on a whole different level. Geschehen wird der Reiftu von Purim legabe Matan Torah is Kanal, bestanden in them, and just like what was the accomplishment of Purim, in contrast to Matan Torah, consists of the fact was by Matan Torah is the Mesiris Nefesh from Yidden given be'ike bekoyach. Then the Yidden accepted the Torah, and they accepted to fulfill what it says in the Torah with self-sacrifice, but this was only on a level of potential. They weren't in a situation where their lives were actually in danger. Mitzad Zeh Neshama, and this is the power of Mesiris Nefesh that comes from the Neshama, u'mitzad Lamayla, and because of the revelation that there was from above. Bepurim then is a gestanen in a tnuah from Mesiris Nefesh bepoil. But in Purim, over here, the Mesiris Nefesh that was expressed was a Mesiris Nefesh here, in this world, in actuality, where their lives were actually in danger. Oich mitzad gufam, u'mitzad amata. And this was expressed as they are here in their physical bodies, and it came from them, from their own, where they developed and expressed and brought out their Mesiris Nefesh. The same is also with the children that are the guarantors. As bepurim is das gewen nit bloß bekoyach umitzad amira sa'ovis. That here by the children, it wasn't just because potentially every child is a Yiddish child that has the potential for Mesiris Nefesh, and it wasn't only what their fathers told them. No, das es ausgedrückt bepoil by the bonim gufe kanal, but rather this was expressed by the children themselves. Und nachmer, sie haben das gepoilt, euch bei die Avis. They were leaving their schools and they went into the homes of their parents, and they're the ones that inspired their parents. Und mitzadem is dafke damol gewen, the vekibul ha-Yehudim, the Kabbalah Gemara. And it's because of this that in the Gzeira and in the Nes of Purim, Yidden's Mesiris Nefesh was the absolute acceptance of Yidden of the Torah again. From this, the Rebbe takes a very important lesson for all generations. From them, Hotman di Hayra l'chol adeiros. So from this we have the lesson for all generations. Ubefraten dem Dora Dikvise the Mashiach, especially for our generation, the moments before Mashiach comes, when it is noch avdei Achashverosh, while we're still slaves of Achashverosh. B'shas mevul wissen dem Matzav und dem Oster von dem jüdischen Volk. If you want to know the condition and the future of the Jewish nation, darf man sehen, was es tut sich mit die Tinoikis. You have to see what's going on with the children. And look, what are they saying? And what are they involved in? And what are they bringing along with them when they come out of the school? When they come home? In klare Werte meint das. In very clear and simple words, it means as follows. The chinuch darf sein kanal, the education of the children has to be, as explained before, as von seine frieste kinderische Jahren, from the earliest ages of a child. Noch eides is eine Shaykh zu verstehen an ihnen sichtlich. Even before you can explain a child and he can understand something logically, darfen sie mechanech sein und einkarben in sie. You need to educate them and ingrain in them, in them upleg, that it should be resonated, it should be clear and simple to them, as is on verkeinen mit meir haben. That there's nobody to be afraid of. No blois for the Meibishn allein. The only one that you have to have an awe, a level of yireh, fear and awe from, is Hashem himself. Und wie der Vater von Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Eliezer, hat angesagt in Baal Shem Tov, when is alt gewesen 5 Jahre, as a famous story of the Baal Shem Tov before his father passed away. Rabbi Eliezer, he told his son, the Baal Shem Tov, when he was yet a child of 5 years old, so keinem of kein Zach of den Welt mit Meir haben, from nobody or from anything in the world, you should not have any fear at all, men nit for Gott allein, only for Hashem alone. Und wenn sie werden älter, und wenn sie werden älter, und seine Shaykh zu verstehen, and then when the child grows older and he's able to understand, then you take him to the next level and you teach him the second point, zu verstehen, as utzu eitza v'sufa goymer, ki imanu kel, that Hashem will actually destroy their plans, and Hashem is always with us. Und danach den dritten Minyan, Kanal, Bepratius, and then the third point is explained before in detail how it applies to the concept or the existence of nature altogether. In order that this should be something that resonates by them properly, that this should be the children's pasuk, is nit maspik learn and blois the psukim and Torah shebechsav. It's not enough when you teach just the psukim. in the Chumash or Nach, nor bedarf sie lernen mazbe sein nekudas akapanim von the biurim in Torah Shebal Peh Bechlal und in Torah Chassidus befrat. You have to also give them the explanations that Chazal teach us in Torah Shebal Peh in general, and more specifically the explanations that it says in Chassidus that will develop and inspire the children to see the Yiddishkeit, the nekudas hayahadus, the emunah, that it will be strengthened through these psukim. Und b'shas the Yiddische Kinder nehmen mit, and now when the children, they take along with them, und leben mit der Teichen von die psukim, and they live with the content of the psukim. Euch herausgehen, die can dreisen von Beis HaSefer, even after they leave the school, und bringen es mit sich in Zera Heiser, and they bring it along into their homes. Es geschehen, wie das es gewähnt, bei Yom HaMehem. That's just like it was in those times. Also wird es sein, bisman hazeh, the same will be also in our times as well. Das wird versichern, dem Kiyum und Hemshech von Torah bi Yisrael. This will guarantee the continued lasting of Torah to be amongst Yidden. Und es wird nicht sein, was Meide zu haben. And there'll be nothing to be afraid of anything in the world. From the very little children, from the youngest age, you have a foundation of strength. To wipe out, to get rid of any enemy and anyone that's seeking to take revenge of Yidden. And then it will be fulfilled, that the hearts of the parents will be returned. And al-banim means al-yidei banim, through the children. When Hashem sends us Eliyahu Hanavi, which yoim al-banim, derech ave v'ratzen, he will tell the children in a loving manner, go and persuade your parents to hold on to the ways of Hashem. When it's come, the Yoim Hashem Hagadol V'Anoira, and Eliyahu Hanavi gives us the good news about the great and awesome day that's going to come. Mismach Geula LeGeula, we come from the redemption of Purim to the ultimate redemption. Yoim HaGeula Amitis V'Ashlema, the day of the ultimate redemption. Al Yidei Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Karev Mamish.